Meeting to order for public safety. Today, December 12th, 2022. Present with us are committee members, President of the Council, Councilor Todd McGee, and Councilor Cocaine Givner, and myself, Israel Rivera. I'd like to entertain a motion to call the public hearing into order.
Motion to call the hearing.
Second.
Open the hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
So here we are attending the item, which is a petition from the Holyoke Citizens requesting a public meeting to discuss the conditions of our rental units and the increased rents impacting our community. Technically, there is no list, right? So whoever would like to come and speak can speak. But when you speak, you have to raise your hand. That's on Zoom. I'm sorry. When you speak, please name and address, city and address, before you come to the mic. Also, if I kind of want to say something real quick. No, like if we speak from the eye, right? We're not attacking anybody. We're not. Obviously, there's two sides to a story, but I try to want to keep it as, I don't want to say civil, but you know what I mean, like chill as much as possible. That's not my thing. So as chill as much as possible, because there are a lot of people here, and it's easily something can throw something off, and people could get upset, and people can I want to avoid any of that. So I want to thank all the people that are here present. I want to thank all the counselors that are here as well, because they're present. We have Counselor Joe McGivern, Counselor Tessa Murphy Ramboletti, Counselor Jenny Rivera, Counselor Jose Maldonado Velez, and Counselor Kevin Jourdain. Thank you guys too as well for being present. So if you guys would like to start, if you're on Zoom too as well, feel free to raise your hand. If I don't recognize you immediately, Jeff will more than likely let me know. So I will recognize you, and the same rule applies, a name and address when you're speaking up. So I will go first with, yep.
Pretty loud. My name is Katie Talbot. I live at 87 Highland Ave in Westfield, and that is not by desire. I cannot find housing in Holyoke that meets the needs of my family that I can afford. But I want to first thank you all for having this opportunity for tenants to come and share their experience of what it's like to be a tenant in the city of Holyoke. Oftentimes, we spend a lot of time thinking about homeowners and property owners and business owners, and tenants in Holyoke make up 64% of the residents here. And for far too long, we've been living in conditions that are uninhabitable, that you would never want to live in. And so my hope tonight is that we can hear some stories of residents in the city of Holyoke. We are hoping that this is the first step in a conversation around a tenant bill of rights, an office to give example as to why we need an Office of Tenant Protections that is advocating for tenants on a daily basis, as well as the hope to start talking about preemptive regulations and restrictions on cooperative housing in the city of Holyoke. So again, thank you for giving us this opportunity, and I yield my time. I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sandra Wallentley. Forgive me. I live at 856 Dwight Street, Holyoke. We live in poor conditions. We have roaches because we have people upstairs who are hoarders. We have literally drywall peeling. We have bad conditions. My husband has cancer, and we are trying to keep him healthy. And we can't do that without heat. Today we went 24 hours without heat. I had to threaten our landlord to get somebody to come in to repair the furnace for us to get heat. We are fighting this for the last 3 years to keep the heat going on a consistent basis. Our rent is $1,100. My husband does not work because of the lung cancer. Our rent is $1,100. I have to decide to pay rent or the other bills next year. We have no way of paying our rent. I will be homeless, and he is still doing cancer treatments. How am I supposed to do this and keep him healthy?
That ain't right. That ain't right.
This is the fight I am on. I'm by myself. I can't turn to family because they are poor too. And they are doing food stamps, and they are on mass health, and they are on welfare because they can't seem to find jobs in this area. This is something my family's been fighting for the last few years. I have been going back to school, going off of Social Security to try to find a job that I shouldn't be doing, just to be able to make ends meet. I have more metal in my body than I should have. I broke my back 10 years ago. I have 2 knee replacements. I can't walk very far. I can't lift patients no more. And I live in bad conditions. My landlord does not have no smoke detectors, no, I don't even know what you call it for a gas. I have a gas stove. We don't have those. We have more trash on our front porch because it's all his construction stuff. This is not safe for our community, not safe for our building, not safe for our grandchildren. We have it on our back porch and our front porch. We don't have a safe way to get out of our building half the time.
That's not right.
If there was a fire, God help us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cleopatra Pledger-Lecky, and I live at 435 Topaniki. And I'm here today because I am a person who is subjected to not being able to get housing because of past conviction of evictions. And that was out of my control. It was nothing that I could handle. On my journey coming out this way, I found it very hard to find any housing because of the evictions that I had in the past, which was because the rent was too damn high. So I'm busy jumping jobs to try to get the money to pay the rent, and the rent's steady going up because the little bit of money I make, the more the rent goes up. And it's still too high, so I have to move to another place. Every year, it seems like that's what I'm doing. I'm jumping from house to house. It's just too damn high. It's ridiculous. And we need some type of solution where we can live somewhere where we don't have to worry about somebody's going up on the rent on us for the greed of the economy. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, just state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is April Gagnon. I live at 446 Maple Street in First Floor Right. I've been dealing with this landlord for about 3 years now, and we have, we have leaky pipes. We have the ceilings falling in. I had to fix my own toilet. If not, I would be peeing in a bucket. We have illegal heating systems. Right now, my heat's at 64, and it reads about 80 in my house. The heat doesn't want to work, and when it doesn't work, it's freezing cold in my house. I have mice poop everywhere. I buy $700 worth of food, and I have to throw away $700 worth of food because the mice eat through everything. I bought in totes. I have thrown totes away full of food because the mice got in there. I have urine and feces leaking on my head in my bathroom. My children are physically and mentally sick from living in this place that we live in. I have never, ever in my lifetime have lived in such of nasty conditions. My kids' ceilings are falling in the bedroom. The mice are eating through the ceilings where we have tape taped over the holes so that the mice don't come through the ceiling. And we have, we have a security door in the front that's no longer working because of the fact that a drug addict had broken it so he could get in and get warm. The landlord has not fixed it yet, so now I'm here fighting for my children's safety and my safety with a baseball bat because we have people that want to come in and want to do drugs and sell drugs inside of our hallways. I have nothing protecting my house from gunshots, from anything, and it's just ridiculous. If I didn't go and fix my own toilet or my own thermostat, it's a problem now that the wires are being eaten from the mice in the house. So every time you turn on something else blows up. We can't. The fuses are just ridiculous. It's too much. I pay $800 now. I was paying $1,000 for rent because of the fact that he got found out he was renting a 2-bedroom apartment to a lady who has 4 kids and herself. I am sleeping in my living room. My children are sleeping in the bedrooms that are 2 bedrooms. And we've complained. I went to the city, I went to the Board of Health, and they all just say, well, there's nothing we could do. All we could do is give him fines. Well, enough is enough. Something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. We need lower housing costs. We need something. Somebody needs to stand up and do something for our children. Our children are mentally and physically being observed to this stuff. Somebody's got to stand up. Somebody. If you guys can't help, then I don't know what to do. I'm going to be homeless with my kids because I will not sit here and take this no longer. I will live in my car if I have to. Shower in a bathroom at a gas station. I'd rather be homeless than to deal with this. I'm sorry. I really have had enough, and this landlord, he just doesn't care. And he just, after 3 or 4 years of this, I can't take it no more. I'm now taking medication because I'm mentally ill. My children get nosebleeds from the heat because it's so damn high. I just don't know what else to say. We need support. We need support. We need lower housing costs. We need instant housing. If they can't meet the needs of us, they need to give us housing. Somebody needs to do something. Section 8, something. And I can't get anywhere else to live because they want $15,000, $17,000, $16,000, just to move in. It's like, we don't have that. I'm a welfare recipient in SSI. I have 4 kids to raise. I mean, I've been looking for a job underneath the table because you can't work being on SSI and welfare. It's just either or. Well, it's not fair. We should be able to live like the landlords live and drive Hummer 3s and brand new Chargers. Okay, and live in picket house fences and everything. He also tries to go and buy bars and everything. His properties are just disgusting. They are. People need to do something. They need to do something quick. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Hi. My name is Draven Dolores, and I live in 356 Belmont Avenue. That's in Springfield. I live on a fixed income, and I demand that the city of Holyoke implement rent control in a cost of rent equation equal to no more than 25% of a tenant's income. When I first moved into my apartment, I came to my apartment to a cracked wall and loose plumbing and issues with the apartment, just the stinking, and the laundry unit that we're provided, we haven't had that fixed at all in all of the time that I've been there. And I have to go down 2 blocks to wash my clothes, and sometimes when I come back, I find people sleeping on the stairs, and they're rude, and they're very overwhelming, and especially like when I come from like my studies and stuff and I see them there, it can kind of like stress me out. I've seen with a lot of tenants around me a constant issue with rent being too high, which is why I would like to ask Holyoke to see if there's any way there can be some sort of rent cap implemented, and just more enforcement of code enforcement and health policies, clean pipes, no roaches, no holes in our walls, and molds. Our front door to our building, the part where you push the door and you open the door, it's hanging off of our door. So people can just come in and exit whenever they want. And that makes me uncomfortable because I got like I do music, so I have like my music equipment that's in my house, and I don't want nobody to like come in and break into my place and stuff. So I just hope that today helps with improving living conditions for not only tenants of Holyoke, but tenants around Western Massachusetts. So as your constituent of Holyoke, I demand you adopt this tenant bill of rights in the city of Holyoke. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Orderica, and I'm an attorney with the law firm of Heisler, Feldman, and McCormick in Springfield. And we specialize in representing low-income tenants in housing.
1 second. Address?
I live in Amherst. I'm at 139 High Point in Amherst.
All right. Thank you.
So our work is really about assisting tenants that, like the ones you've heard from here today. And so we're here in solidarity with them in many tenants here that are courageous in speaking out for the issues that they need, both in terms of enforcing the laws as they currently exist and using the tools that exist in the law in order to promote better housing conditions here in Holyoke, as well as advocating at the state level for more tools that the city can use to improve the situation for the tenants who are really at this point in our state living in a housing crisis. It's a deep housing crisis, both in terms of the availability of housing, the price of housing, and the conditions that these tenants are dealing with. And we see this every day in our work. We represented hundreds of tenants in a housing court, and we see mold, deep mold, black mold. We see lead. It's out there in our communities, and it's something that the tenants need and that the law requires that landlords respond to. And yet, over and over again, what we see is that the landlords are charging exorbitant amounts for the rent, and yet they don't do their part. They don't take care of their responsibilities to fix the issues that exist. And we have tenants who are called daily, weekly, and nothing is getting done. And that's why what we're seeing really is these landlords are sitting on the backs of the tenants as vampires, sucking the blood, sucking the wealth out of this community. And more often than not, these landlords don't live in this community. And so what we see is that, we've got a landlord in Springfield with 1,000 units. It's $1 million a month leaving the city of Springfield, going to New Jersey, right? That money is being taken out of the communities where it could be used to benefit the people who live here. And so that's why we're here today, standing up with these tenants who are here. And what we hope is to see change here in Holyoke and across the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley Stacko. I live at 446 Maple. I've been living there for 5 years. My 5-year-old had lead poisoning. We've been fighting with the landlord for a lead certificate. He told us he didn't have to give us one. Now we're dealing with mice, illegal heating. I'm scared it's gonna fall on my kids. Mice, they eat through everything. And he expects us to pay rent for what? We're living in a hellhole. And it's not safe for our kids. We have to worry about drug dealers getting in, getting a shot. I don't even allow my kids in the windows to play outside. They find needles. I'm a low-income mother. My husband just started a business. But starting a business, you start at rock bottom, so it's 10 times hard. And it's just so unfair that the landlord, he has Hummers, he has nice cars, he tries buying strip clubs, he buys all these properties, he lives luxury, but he expects us to give us all our money. How are we supposed to live? It's just so unfair. I'm very angry. Can't even let my kids outside without them asking questions, and they're only 5, 2, and 6 months. They need a better living situation, and I can't give it to them because the rent is always high. They want first, last, and security, and us low-income parents can't pay that. But then when you can't shelter your kids right, DCF wants to get involved, and no mother or father wants to deal with that. Because at the end of the day, I'll go from here to hell water for my kids before anybody takes my babies. I just want something done with these low-life landlords. Because it's not right that they get to live in luxury while we're sitting in piss water. It's just unfair. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ashley. I want to take a second to recognize somebody that's online.
This is Cleopatra.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I got somebody online since there's a break. Spencer Fox Peterson. Name and address.
Me?
Yes.
Yes, this is Spencer Fox Peterson at 51 Portland Street in Holyoke. I'm calling in solidarity with the tenants union. I am a homeowner, so I'm not a tenant, but I have been a tenant in the past. And I think these situations are abhorrent. Housing should be a human right, and we as a community should take that stand. I think other resources that we're spending on things like ShotSpotter, et cetera, I understand that's not exactly coming out of our budget, but just for example, one of the more recent things, I think that'd be better spent helping our community. And as a quote unquote taxpayer, I co-sign that we should be helping our less fortunate and the people that need help first, because that's how we'll build a strong community. And at the end of the day, that's what we all want, is a strong, safe community. And the less of us, the better off they are, the better off we all are. So I stand in solidarity with everybody, and I thank you for your time, and I won't take any more of the time for tonight. So have a good rest of your evening, and I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
But my nickname's Neb, but my name's Nancy Capron, and I live at 72 Congress Avenue, apartment 1L. And first of all, I want to say that I believe that housing is a human right. And also, like, my landlord, I feel like he was not a price gouger. The property taxes went up here, and it affected me. But what's going on in my life is I was born with a disability, and I have a little bit of brain damage. And I got lucky. My grandmother sent me to college. I dropped out, went back. 28 years later, I wrote a paper. I got the bachelor's degree. And right now, because of the head trauma that I had as a child, I'm having some early issues with my brain aging. And so I work in a public school system, and I work at this one school. And they changed from being like a third-party vendor employing me to them. And I'm not sure what's happened, but the one school that I feel safe in, that I feel like I know people, that they're not currently like using outside subs that often. And so I've gone from being able to like work 160 days a year to like no days a year. And I'm not surprised when people are involved, because my learning disability is a cousin to autism, and people don't generally like me, and I don't care anymore. But that I knew when human beings were my employer that I was going to have a problem, because that's what it's been like. And I guess it's not the worst story, but you know, one of my fears is my grandmother and my father died knowing I couldn't take care of myself economically, and my mom is elderly, and like I sit at home and cry, and I'm hiding from her that I'm not going to work. And that kind of is my life. So, and I'm ill prepared. Some of this is taken from an organization I'm connected with, People's Action. But so housing is a human right. And in 2020, housing was 35% of family budgets. It's the single biggest item in a family budget. Housing costs are twice the next biggest item, which happens to be transportation. So that's the biggest part of someone's income. So therefore, future rent increases deeply impact people's economic security. Corporate landlords have used the crisis to raise rents higher than the overall inflation, and are using inflation as an excuse to drive up the cost of housing and brag about it in earnings calls, right? So this is all not me, this is someone else. The 10 largest publicly traded apartment companies saw their profits soar by 57% to nearly $5 billion in 2021. Starwood Capital's CEO boasted on an earnings call this February that, quote, tenants are capable and willing to pay rent increases, end quote, and called inflation, quote, an extraordinary gift that keeps on giving, end quote, right? CEO of America for Rent, he said, quote, we're really excited and optimistic about the ability to push rents higher next year, end quote. In June of 2022, Americans Homes for Rent saw a 96% increase in their profits compared to the previous quarter. I'm sharing this information with you because I believe it's vitally important that you understand that the widespread increase to rents across the city are not purely tied to inflation, although I do think my landlord's was tied to inflation, but are rent increases implemented by bad actors who seek to profit off of our continuing national housing crisis and inflationary forces created by the response to the global pandemic. According to the United Way for Alice, 48% of Hampden County residents are asset limited, income constrained, and employed. If the latest Holyoke census numbers are correct, around 15,475 citizens of Holyoke are paying more than 30% of their income in rents and necessities of life. Across the United States, 42% of Americans, that's 142 million Americans and 51 million households, are either indigent, extremely poor, or poor-ish, and paying more than 30% of their income for their living expenses. Nearly half the country is either rent or mortgage burdened, right? They're paying too much rent for their units, or they're paying too much mortgage for what their income is. Across the country, our tax dollars are funding gentrification and displacement. Federal and state governments, under the guise of compensation to citizens of low-income areas in deindustrialized cities, to compensate them for their pain and suffering, are funding redevelopment or revitalization in every single market where money has come in to, quote-unquote, make amends, and to improve the conditions for citizens abused by the federally codified system of redlining and the lack of government intervention during deindustrialization or remediation of its effects, the economic viability of our citizens, the effects of the economic viability of our citizens, the money has done two things. It's made money, profit, for money times publicly traded developers and their stockholders, and displaced people, mostly black and brown people, but generally poor people across the board. To be clear, the money meant to improve and repair the damage of failed government policy around redlining and deindustrialization just causes more injury and harm to the people that were redlined in the first place. Once one market rate building goes into these areas, every other property owner sees the opportunity to make more profit. Poor workers pay taxes, and even I, at $12,000 to $17,000 a year, pay taxes, and some of it stays with the state and federal government. To take the tax money of 142 million Americans, those same people who are rent and mortgage burdened, and give it to developers to displace other poor people in the name of restitution for past harms is frankly revolting, right? And now the next part I'm going to say, there is some part, I was asked to participate in a poetry event. They wanted an English speaker for salsa rengue, and I was like, look, I'm not into poetry. And then I had an idea. I said, I'm going to read Sinead O'Connor's Famine. And I did it poorly. And when it was over, Mary Claire and Natalia Vasecchio came up to me, and they were like, what is this? What is this? Because the words of famine could be the words of other island nations. And I'm going to say that one group that I'm about to reference came here and got to be white and had a lot of success, right? And didn't face racism. But I'm going to say this. So in Holyoke, home to two large groups, displaced from island countries, robbed of their land, language, and religion, I'd hope that we would once again become a model city like we were as the first planned city in America. But this time, we'll be the first city in America that doesn't use its monies and economic planning department to displace the poor renter or the poor homeowner. As we embark on the road to being the community of no displacement, we need to start with 1, a tenant's bill of rights, 2, an office of tenant protection, and 3, some regulations on corporate landlords.
Good evening. My name is Darlene Elias, and I am a homeowner. And I live at 17 Clark Street. I first moved here to the city from the Bronx, New York, about 50 years ago. There's not too many people in this room that can say, they've been here for 50 years. And those of you who are in this room, we know each other. At that time, when I came from the Bronx, New York, Holyoke had a problem with slumlords then. And it appears to me that Holyoke continues to have a problem with slumlords 50 years later. And my question to the city of Holyoke, to these current city councilors that are here, at what point does the city become responsible or held responsible for enforcing codes here in the city of Holyoke? 50 years later, you're dealing with the same issue of buildings being dilapidated, of fires, of neglect, people living in substandard conditions. At what point does the city or the tenants, what do they have to do to hold the city accountable to make change? If for some reason the city council or the city of Holyoke can't do anything about rent control, why not do something about enforcing the codes here? Sending a clear message about funneling money or reaching out to the federal government or to our new governor, Attorney Healy's, trying to get money to channel into Holyoke to enforce the codes here in Holyoke. That simply enough is a message for the people of Holyoke. I don't want to see the days return to Holyoke where we used to be called Holy Smoke and people were dying unnecessarily. But the reality of the matter is the next accident is waiting to happen. And will each and every one of you feel, at least some sort of guilt or responsibility? Where does your responsibility lie as the representatives of the city of Holyoke?
Thank you for that.
Good evening, Council. My name's Angel Lewis Maris. I live in 456 Springfield Street in Chicopee, Massachusetts. I grew up in Holyoke, say 34 years of my life. I love the city a lot. I currently live with the family members. Because of my housing records, cost of rent, it is impossible for me to find housing. I had back surgery 2 months ago, and I'm still looking for a part-time job, but it's not easy for me to get a part-time job. In the meantime, I work voluntarily for Neighbors to Neighbors organization. In the last years, we have knocked on doors all over the city, and I've seen couples apartments, tenants living in a bad habit, healthy environment, not healthy at all, especially in Morchard Street in the flats, that yellow building. Some tenants told us to come inside and look at the apartment, and some people, the tenants, it's not safe for them to live in the apartments at all. And the condition people are living is unacceptable. Mold throughout the bathroom, broken windows, broken doors, ruin and disrespect from landlords have got to change. We deserve homes that don't make us sick. We can protect the tenants with the Bill of Rights and the Office of Tenant Protections. I demand you adopt the Bills of Rights in the city of Holyoke. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good evening, Council. My name is Christiana Harriman. I live at 31 Cabot Street, apartment 3 left. So I've been a tenant for at 31 Cabot Street for 5 years. And you know, in those 5 years, I have to say that, you know, it is a subsidized unit for me. Me and my children I've been able to go back to school. I've been able to, you know, secure, you know, education where I'm able to actually, you know, think about not having a subsidy. And as that starts to materialize, right, you know, I look at other people that, it's a program, right? It's called community housing. And I just look at the families, like one of the requirements is you have to be a person in recovery, right? And I remember when I first moved in, like all I could do was go to neighbors meetings and recovery meetings, right? And like school and work and these things weren't realistic for me. But even thinking about like, now, you know, my family is grown and I'm still stuck in a 2-bedroom, so I'm looking, let's say in my neighborhood, I live on Cabot Street, I look on Main Street, I pay $980 full market rent. It's $1,800 for one more bedroom around the corner. You know, so where does that keep me? It keeps me stuck, right? It keeps me stuck in this place, right? Overworked, right? Coming home tired, telling my kids I can't, a whole bunch of can'ts. And then if I, you know, say I do fall behind, I have hard times or something like that, our solution is we have RAF, this wonderful program. But you want me to be 3 months behind in my rent in order to go to RAF, and then I have this record of I'm behind on my bills, and like realistically, where do I move forward? Like, where's the progression in this? It's stuck. So like here I find myself in a place I love very much, the city of Holyoke, stuck in South Holyoke, looking at it. You know, to think about it, if my children got taken, right? Realistically, and I did unfortunately have a relapse and I'm set back in a place, there's not even a homeless shelter in the city I live in for me to depend on as a single person. And as a mother, you know, like the suggestion to me right now is that this subsidy is leaving. It's not, you know, we'll help support you. You know, it's go to a shelter and apply for these fundings. After I've lived secured for 5 years, my children don't know what that is, you know? And I just think for the city of Holyoke, we need to do better. We need to do better. There's no way I'm not behind on my rent, and I've had a broken window for 4 years, and Wayfinders hasn't done an inspection since before the pandemic. I stopped calling them. It's a waste, you know, it's just like pointless. It's gonna frustrate me. I'm gonna have a bad day after that. So, you know, what I've had is unfortunately had to have some acceptance in this, right? And so that's why we're here tonight, you know, to tell, like, I'm a normal person. Could I move? No. Do you get what I mean? If they raised my rent, I wouldn't even know what to do. Do you get what I mean? I'm sure, you know, we'd figure it out, but at the end of the day, this is America, you guys, you know? Like, we do need to get to the place where, at the least, can I live in a home that's safe and healthy, and when I call my landlord, I don't feel like I'm annoying them, right? Like, that's the issue. This is not slumlords today can be housing. I have a property manager that has millions of units. If we thought about the money you take in a year, there is no reason why me asking you to fix my shower because my kid is a savage, whatever. You get what I mean? I paid my rent, you know? Like, that's part of being a tenant. And then I want to close with this. Like, now, realistically, I cannot think about tenancy. I'm thinking about joining up with a family and let's fix our credit and wait for this economy to crash. Because if the greed continues, that's all that's gonna happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to be speaking Spanish. En español. Yo soy dueña de casa, I'm a homeowner, but I'm representing people here who are struggling, who's being discriminated against when it comes to renting. Y yo exijo que se tomen las medidas necesarias para garantizar que ninguna discriminación de las clases protegidas inhiba el logro y la estabilidad de la vivienda. Todos tenemos el derecho de tener una vivienda decente y acorde con nuestros ingresos. Las personas más marginadas deberían estar doblemente protegidas, lo cual no ocurre. Gloria Caballero Roca, 5 Whiting Avenue, Ward number 4. I'll say it in English. I demand that legal measures be taken to ensure that no discrimination of protected classes inhibits attainment or stability of housing. Not only housing, it's decent, and affordable housing. Everyone should have decent and affordable housing, but those from the most marginalized classes should doubly be protected, which at the time are often not protected. I thank you, councilors, for being here, for supporting this town hall. I appreciate everyone who came out. Estamos juntos, we're organizing, we're mobilizing, and we need your support. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nikki Dawson. I'm from 226 Lyman Street,
Okay.
Holyoke, Mass. And I'm here to talk about some solutions to this housing crisis. I'm a part of Neighbors to Neighbors, and we recently, started a tenants union of Western Mass. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for this stuff. I lived here for 7 years. My story, a little bit about me, is I had a tragic hit-and-run accident happen here in Holyoke to me. Before that, I was a CNA. I was a go-getter, went to college, so very athletic, and I could have been something. But after this tragic hit-and-run and multiple other traumas that I will not discuss, I'm in need of more assistance than ever. And I honestly feel like the system is failing, and is failing me and my brothers and sisters. So maybe I'll come to you and talk about why this hit and run accident is affecting me. Why did I tell you this? Well, I told you this because you get hit and run. You can't even climb up the stairs. I can't cook for me. I can't take care of myself. I got hit by a car, and it was a good mileage, 60 miles per hour, getting hit by a car. I'm lucky I'm standing here today to talk to you today. So I couldn't work. So then now, guess what? I can't pay bills. It takes a while to get Social Security. It takes a while to get assistance. Homeless. You go bounce couch to couch, you lose friends because they like, oh, why can't you work? And it's like, and that's another problem. But my goal is I was denied housing because of my credit history. Now I have to wait 7 years to repair my credit history before I can get a home.
Sorry, just a reminder to speak into the mic.
Oh. The housing process is very difficult, and there's many barriers. One is accessibility for apartments. There's many apartments in the area with a long waiting list. For example, I called one, and they have 9,000 applicants here in Holyoke. So 9,000 people need a place to live, okay? That's a lot. And my hope for housing gets lower. So then I have to find a place, and then, you go to, these buildings, and, they're not really concerned about my credit. They're concerned about getting someone in there, and, it's fortunate that I found a place that accepts my credit, but now I can understand why they do. You know what I mean? There's mold. I have to deal with mold. Now not only do I have to go to lawyers and courts for my hit and run, now I have to go to lawyers and think about going to lawyers to take this landlord who will not fix this apartment. And it's because, why can't he fix it? Was it money? Research it. No, it's not money, dude. You bring in more than millions of dollars a year, and you can't give me a place so I can breathe well in my home, and I can't call, a construction company to come fix the place. It's not my place. Otherwise, I would have done it. You know what I mean? So, and then you're like, okay, move out. Okay, so now I'll tell you my process on trying to move out. So, during my time looking for an apartment, I had to pay applications. They add up, especially when you have to apply for 300 apartments. I'm not lying to you. I at least did 500 applications to apartments. Do the math. 500 times at least $25 for each application fee, and it wasn't just 25. There was 35, there was 80, there were all different numbers that they all come up with. Do the math. That's thousands of dollars, and I'm on fixed income. I'm going broke before I can even find a place because of this application fee. Like, no, you shouldn't go broke looking for a place. So there's got to be some type of solution for that. I also was worried about landlord retaliation, no-cause evictions, because of this mold problem. Like, I ended up still paying rent, full rent. I didn't go through that bull crap, because at the end of the day, if I did go to court, they would have, now there goes my chance of ever getting an apartment in Massachusetts ever again. Because if you go to court, you will not, and they see, and the landlords see that, then they're not getting, your application's getting thrown out. That money I paid for, that time I spent out to look for that place, I'm not getting it. So, there's other issues of the building, rodent, leaking roof, management, not knowing who my management person is, no clarity.
Ironically, with the mic.
Huh?
Ironically, with the mic on the side.
I thought it makes me laugh.
No, I heard you, but it's online. The people online can't hear you, and they have to hear you because it's a public meeting. So if you could speak into the mic.
And then with these issues, like, it seemed like the landlords at my building wanted to help. They were really good. But then they come back, like, Nikki, move out. And then I ask them why, and they're like, the landlord doesn't want to fix it. And I'm like, why can't they fix it? And it's like, they don't want to. And I'm like, sitting here, still paying you, but you don't want to pay me? You don't want to fix the things? But I cannot pay. I have to still pay, or I'll never have a place. So it would be nice to have a resource to reach out to the tenants where these types of situations that I'm explaining to you, that's like hard to deal with. And it would be really nice to have a place where I can call to like help me with with those solutions and that, and getting that all together. I talked about the fees, I talked about that. Oh yeah, and the rent increase does not do any justice for those on fixed income. Like, for example, the landlords raised the rent $300 a month, but now the Social Security recipient is getting $30 increase. So how does that match? Like, so now, where are we going to get the money now? Because, I don't know. It's not adding up. It's too much of an increase. $300 is too much of an increase. There should be a percentage. I'm okay with the percentage, like the increase. I understand things get more expensive as time goes on, but like, what's the percentage of 300? Yeah, what is the percentage? What is that? I don't know. It's a lot. It's just a lot. It's like, it feels like a lot of percentage to raise the rent that high. Thank you for listening to me today, even though my mic was not really working.
Thank you, Nikki. It's all right.
Thank you.
Good evening, counselors. Thanks for hearing us all. My name is Lori Solomon. I live at 192 Walnut Street here in Holyoke. Best place I've ever lived, best community I've ever lived in. Before I bought my house, I lived in a rental apartment. I now pay $300 less per month as a homeowner, in addition to all the benefits that you get from being a homeowner, not knowing that your rent's not going to go up, knowing that you are building equity in the rest of your life. It's a tremendous privilege that I'm incredibly grateful for, and part of why I wanted to come and speak tonight. I believe that neighborhoods are safer, healthier, and more stable when people can own their home. I want stable housing for people, and I want to promote home ownership. Poverty and homelessness is a policy decision. And that means we can decide to do something differently. We can decide to err on the side of humanity and dignity through affordable housing and a path to homeownership. For these reasons, I demand that City Council implement an ordinance requiring landlords to give tenants advanced notice of property sale and first right of refusal so that they can have the opportunity to purchase the place that they live in. And ideally, we give them lots of help and support to do that. Thanks.
Good evening, Council. My name is Nicole Trombley, and I live at 125 Cabot Street. So compared to a lot of the stories here, I would consider myself lucky. And by lucky, I don't mean having good luck with housing or not having these problems or anything. I just mean my problems haven't been as horrible as, some of the other stories you've heard here. And that shouldn't be the standard. It shouldn't be the standard at all. I've been renting in Holyoke since I moved out of my parents' house at 19. I'm 23 now, and it has been a constant struggle ever since I started living on my own. I can't actually afford to live on my own because even though I work 2 jobs, my income cannot afford rent by myself. If I didn't live with my partner, I would definitely have to live with roommates. And, my apartment that I live in now, I love my apartment. I love Holyoke. But even things at my apartment now where I consider to be good, and like I said, better than a lot of people's situations here, things aren't good. Our oven hasn't been working since we moved in almost a year ago. Our window is broken, and it's a fight to try and talk to the landlord and just talk to someone. And it's kind of like, what are we paying for? I mean, I've never missed a rent payment in my entire life, but I can confidently say that landlords have missed their end of their responsibilities. And honestly, frankly, in any other job, if you weren't taking care of the stuff that need to get done, you'd be fired. That's plain and simple. And these landlords have no one holding them accountable. No one, giving them any sort of punishment or consequences for not holding their end of the bargain up. Just along with that, the fact is, and with rent increases and things like that, we don't see the benefits of those rent increases. We're not getting any new appliances. We're not getting any updates to our apartments. We're not even getting the things fixed that we need fixed. It's just more money in the pockets of these landlords who don't even live in Holyoke like many people have stated. I mean, I'm pretty sure my landlord lives in Boston. If I had an emergency, I don't really know what I'd do because he doesn't live here. And that is the situation for a lot of folks. And just one more thing to mention, I mean, you know, like mentioned previously, there are no accessible apartments in Holyoke for people with disabilities. I cannot imagine how hard it must be to be a renter in Holyoke if you have disabilities or have children or anything like that. It's hard enough just being a regular person who is able-bodied. I seriously cannot imagine having a disability. None of the apartments I have lived in, and I live on the top floor of my apartment, have elevators. I haven't seen a single apartment with elevators. You need to get upstairs just to get to the first floor. So if you can't walk upstairs, you're done for. And that's not even a permanent disability. You could get hurt or injured, and you're just done for, you know? And just with all these things, what we are putting into our buildings and our living situations, the money we're all spending in our rent is not being reflected in our living situations. The money we're putting in is not being shown in the quality of our living situations. So that is why I think we need to adopt the Tenants' Bill of Rights in Holyoke, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Maria Galarza. Everybody knows me by Elba. And the reason why I want to take a minute to say something is because...
Address. Huh? Just address, too.
Oh, 332 and a half Maple.
Thank you.
I lived in Holyoke since 1980. I moved for 10 years out of the city, came back. I love Holyoke with all my heart. My kids graduated here. They all got jobs in here. I lived in housing for a short time. I gave it up, which I had Section 8 because I always worked. So I was making too much money, and it was a hassle for me, you know, so I decided to give it up. In 2018, I moved to the address that I live now, 332 Maple. I rented from a landlord with option to buy. My rent was $600, and I made a commitment to myself that in 2 years, I would pay it off, the condo. I was working 2 jobs. With the conditions that the landlord was gonna help me fix smoke detectors, 2 windows that were broken, my porch is falling, the railing, you can't even hold on to it. The fire panel for the alarm, for the fire alarm, it wasn't working. All that stuff, it cost me money. To the point that he sold it to me for $47. I was paying him $2,600 a month. My question is, I became the owner in August, this past August. My question is, how can a landlord making $62,000 in 2 years qualify for subsidized housing, emergency housing, that he's still homeless? You told me that. It's the system. The same way there's so many people in waiting lists in housing for a long, long time. He goes and apply, and he gets housing right away. And he brags about it now that he only pays $500. I almost lost the condo after he collected from me $62,000 because he didn't want to sign the deed. It put me in the hole. Thanks God for neighbor to neighbor that helped me get off that problem. It cost me $9,000 more to pay for a lawyer to get me off that. So I need somebody to answer that question for me. How it is possible that a landlord collecting rent and mortgage qualify for subsidized housing, and he lives right down Maple Street. What's wrong with the system? Tells you right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, hi. My name is Guy O'Donnell. I live at 367 Alfremont Highway. And I'm here today as a homeowner in solidarity with my friends and neighbors who are renters. Last year, I had the opportunity to run for city council, and I got to speak to a lot of Holyokers, like a lot. And one lady that really sticks out to me, who lived in Tokaniki, it It was one of the first doors I knocked on. And she's just going through a lot of tough things in her life at that point, and suffering from depression from it. And one of the things she loved to do was to garden. It really helped her clear her mind and sort of get some enjoyment out of life. And the management told her that she needed to cut down her garden and that they were going to put some bushes in there instead. As she told me the story, she was crying and she had to keep taking breaks so that she could get through the entire story. And I just remember thinking the whole time, why? Like, why is a management company even doing this? It doesn't cost them any money, and it brings joy to her. And the only clear answer I could think of was because the management company and the owners didn't care about her. After that, I had the opportunity to talk to hundreds more people in Tokoniki and over 1,000 other people as well. And a lot of things came out of that, and I learned about a lot of what people were going through in this city. And here's some of the things, not all of them by any means, but there were a lot of apartments that had standing water in their basements. There was mold on the walls because of this water, and this was causing health problems. There was one lady that had her kid that was constantly sick right after they had all this mold, and it was happening for weeks and months on end, and she had to be taking them to the doctors all the time. Another issue with no ventilation in the bathrooms. There was mold issues because there was nowhere for the air to go, and this was causing health issues as well. Mold is really bad for your health. There was one lady going through a lot of other health conditions, and this was just adding to it and making it so much worse. There was unsafe electrical work that was not up to code. A lot of people complained of their heat going out for days on end in the wintertime. There were a lot of parents didn't have safe places for their kids to play. There was not enough lighting at night in a lot of the places, so it was not safe for them or their kids. People were told that they could not have barbecues, they could not even have kiddie pools outside of their own apartments to enjoy the outdoors. They weren't allowed to decorate in front of their own apartments. They were discouraged from being outside even at all. I talked to a number of people who said they felt like they were living in a prison in their own home. And a lot of those people aren't here tonight. There's a lot of more people that I've talked to that are experiencing these problems. Everyone deserves to have a safe, healthy, and affordable home. And for a lot of Holyokers, that's not happening right now. So they're here today. They're telling you their concerns. I know a lot of people are skeptical that anyone in power will do anything for them, and I'm hoping that we'll prove them wrong. All right. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephen Bosco. Maybe some of both. Stephen Bosco. I live at 378 Appleton Street, apartment 4R. I'm a landlord. I own 220 units. Most of them are here in Holyoke. And yeah, I do live in one of my own units. I live here in the blocks. I think white picket fences are a little overrated. Fancy cars are too. I'm driving a 12-year-old Honda. I'll show it to you. It's right out there on High Street. In addition to living here in Holyoke, I'm the owner of Arrow Properties, and we're open Tuesday through Friday, and most of the time I staff my office. I'm there in that office. I go out and do maintenance calls in my own units. One of the things that happens all the time in my office is that people come in and they ask for apartments, and the answer is always the same. I don't have it. I don't have something for you. I can't rent to you. I don't even keep a waiting list anymore. And I've kept my rents lower than a lot of other landlords have. There's a HUD fair market rent, and we keep all of our rents at a maximum of 90% of that number, and a lot of them are 70 to 80% of that number. I keep close track of it. And I often sit in my office and I watch things getting worse and worse and worse for tenants in the housing market, and I think to myself that something has to give. That it just can't keep getting worse the way it does, the way it has. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of things going on that are poorly that are not well appreciated by the general public that affect housing and what it costs. There's zoning regulations that restrict how much housing can be built. And there's also building codes, so many building codes. I thought tonight maybe I should bring my code books down and show them to people, but I got lazy, I didn't do it. If I brought them, they're about this thick if you put them all together. So many regulations of what you can and can't do. And then there's also the RAFT program, the program that provided rental assistance for tenants during the pandemic. I thought it was going to end on April 15th, but it didn't. They've kept it going. And it's injecting tons of money into an already tight market with very predictable results. They don't seem to really take any effort to qualify who's qualified for it and who's not qualified for it. And it's really disrupted the market in ways that are not good for people who pay their own rent or anybody who's looking for a unit. So I guess a couple more comments. I've heard about the kind of rent control they have out in Oregon, and I think something like that could work here. As a landlord, there's many types of rent control that I'm not in favor of, but what they're doing in Oregon, I think, is something that could be workable. The way I understand it, they tell landlords you can't raise the rent more than the CPI plus 7% each year. So you wouldn't be able to do a rent increase of, I think somebody said like the rent was $900, then it went up $300. I don't know if I have those figures right, but something like that wouldn't be. What's that?
That's 33%.
33%, yeah, so that wouldn't fly. I guess one other thing. I want to give a shout out to Sean Gonsalves at the Board of Health and his staff. They do a pretty good job. They're pretty proactive. I've called Sean and the people who work for him with issues that are going on around the neighborhood, and they're pretty responsive. So, nobody should have to live with conditions like mold and infestations and water in basements and that kind of thing. And the sanitary code prohibits all that. And if you call the Holyoke Board of Health, they will respond. They will get on that landlord. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to take a second to recognize some of the people that are online. There's, I believe, 3 hands raised. I'll start with Lisa J.
Hi, I'm Lisa Jackson. I'm at 561 South Canal Street, and I am a part of Gendera's community housing program. And earlier this month, we received a letter. I have a 3-year-old daughter, by the way. We received a letter saying as of March 31st, Wayfinders will no longer be a part and being able to pay the subsidy. Now I'm only on DTA benefits. I've been fighting for 1.5 years to get on Social Security. I don't have many options. I'm in recovery, long list of problems, anxiety. Even speaking here is hard for me. I'm just trying to get it out there really quick so it's out there. I don't know what I'm gonna do if I can't get some help from someone. I'm gonna end up being homeless with my 3-year-old. We've been here for 2.5 years almost, 2 years. The apartment that I am in is a wonderful apartment. The landlord is wonderful. They keep up on stuff. We used to have problems with mice, but they've fixed it. I've turned my apartment into my home. My neighbors are my friends. I don't know what my family and I are gonna do if we end up having to move. I don't have any money. I can't pay $1,400 of rent. It's just a really sad situation. And I don't want to go to a family shelter because then DCF will be put back in my life. And I hear conditions at family shelters are not the best as well. I just want to stay in my home and continue to work on everything that I need to be working on. And that's it. Thank you.
Booty, if I'm correct, saying it correctly.
Yep, that's me, Joanna May Booty from 10 Federal Street in Montague, Mass.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm here in solidarity with all of those renters tonight who are speaking out and stating openly to all of the leadership in Holyoke that a home is a place where you should feel safe and secure. People are coming together tonight to demand a tenant's bill of rights here in Holyoke. Again, you should have healthy, comfortable homes, and we need protections to be able to do that. I would urge the leadership in Holyoke to look into ways to do that for the community. You have a number of options outlined here by the tenants union, and someone else brought it up tonight already, but houselessness and poverty are policy decisions, so we can make different decisions. Again, I just stand in solidarity as someone from Western Mass, the state of Massachusetts, with anyone who needs a home that to feel safe and secure in, and I would urge the leadership in Holyoke to do the same. Thank you, I yield my time.
Thank you. Lynn Horan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great, thanks. My name is Lynn Horan. Excuse me, I live at 100 Southampton Road in Holyoke. First and foremost tonight, I want to thank the organizers of this group and event for putting this on and together, and for the commission for giving them their full attention. But mostly I want to thank the speakers here tonight for their courage and inner dignity to speak about their very difficult circumstances. I heard one woman earlier speak on a particular dimension I'm interested in this, and I do support what this group is putting forth. As a disabled person in a wheelchair myself, who has lived in dire circumstances financially because of it, but is certainly living in a better financial circumstance now, I'm really appalled that we don't address the issues in housing of the people like myself who are disabled or have, and sometimes both, have family members who are disabled as well. I often hear of organizations, even in town, that have good intentions to put things together to make for, say, emergency housing. And yet when I contact them just to see if I can come in and bring supplies to them as a person in a wheelchair, they get very defensive with me. And many of these groups are not in accessible buildings. And that's bad enough, because those of us here and even the people tonight want to participate in their own health and safety and that of their community. And they are locked out from participation a lot of the time, let alone returning to homes if they have one that are safe in terms of the other things that able-bodied people take for granted, like functioning elevators. I can't tell you how many disabled people I know in wheelchairs, in all sorts of financial circumstances, by the way, where the elevators are very inconsistent. Inconsistency is part of the thing that all disabled people find too. There are sometimes special exceptions for us made, but they are not consistent. In our homes, we need to be able to access our buildings, and we need to carry our groceries and to hold on to our children and keep them safe. And statistically, in terms of marginalized groups, both globally and in the nation, and certainly even in our town, we are one of the largest populations of marginalized people, and we come in all groups of identity as well. You're more likely to become disabled if you're a member of LGBTQ. You are more likely to become disabled if you are a person of color. All of these things are false constructs. They're not built into our anatomy, but they will eventually impact our lives. So how can we begin to talk about better and safer housing unless we include the the disabled people's needs. And that's pretty much all I want to say. And again, thank you to all of you folks that are sharing your stories. There are those of us who hear you and are trying very hard to find ways to put your needs in application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Felicita Martinez, and I live in 456 Tokeniki Road. So, Guy already said what's going on a little bit briefly of what we live up there. They increased our rent. In my case, they increased my rent to $700. I live in a fixed income. I'm disabled. I did not know that the rent was $700 until they sent me a letter that I was past due on my rent and that I had a balance. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I call the office and ask, well, your rent is $700 and you need to find a way to pay them. I'm like, wait a minute. Who sent the letter? Because I never received the letter. It took me 2 weeks to get in contact with my social worker from Section 8 because she was out sick. And I'm still battling with the remaining balance. So how you could hold somebody accountable or something that I didn't get the letter. I called the supervisor and she's like, you are responsible for those $700 because we're not going to pay it. And I'm like, you're not listening. This is the problem. Nobody listens. Nobody lives, if they live in a rental, they know what we'll go through. But if you don't live in a rental and you live in your home, lay back, watching TV or eating or whatever and having a good time with other people, that's fine for you, but not for us. All this money that these people have for the rent that we have to pay for them, what do they do? If they only do over there, they just patch it with a little plaster, just paint it, all done. There's people there that apparently they fix and they don't fix nothing. The tenants have to fix the whatever it is in the apartment because they don't fix. And when you call them and you keep calling them to come and fix something, they get annoyed. They have a caller ID. Every time I call, they see the number, they don't pick up. We try to make a committee over there. These 2 ladies right here. We were 5, the ones that went to speak to somebody from Linda, I think it was her name. And she was like, oh, okay. Did she listen? At first, yeah, everything was fine and whatever, from the apartment and everything. And she was like, okay. But then she got tired of it, you know. So let me lay back because that's not my problem. We have kids. I cannot let my grandkids go outside and play because I don't even know how to call it, if it's a jungle or what. Right now, we don't have emergency light outside. So what are we supposed to do? They keep raising the rent. One of these ladies here that are from Tokeniki, they raised the rent twice. And she only is on disability. There's no handicap accessibility. There was a lady that she had a child. We didn't have hot water. Their answer was, boil the water. I was about to curse her out. I was about to get ghetto. Because I guess that's the only way they understand. And we Puerto Ricans, we don't take that lightly. Because it's our livelihood, it's our children, it's the elderly. That's another thing. They're making the porches in the back. They had the beautiful porches. They're tearing them down to put stairs and white fence, the decorative fence. There's people, elderly, that want to go outside to sit in their porch. They can't now, and they're too high. There's no handicap accessibility. The lady that had to move her to the front to put the ramp. In the case of a fire, where are we going to go out through? Can somebody tell me? Because there's no fire escape there. I don't even know how that building passed inspection. That building been there since 1971. That's when they built the building. And when they were putting the siding that I just passed by when I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that mildew? The little foamy thing, like I call it, that had mold. What they did, they just patch it up with the paper and do whatever they do so it looked nice. So I'm gonna fix the outside, but I'm gonna leave the inside a mess. So you're washing your face, but you're not washing your rest of your body. And the kids don't have a place to go because before this summer ended, you remember the shooting that it was in the next corner? So there's no place to take our kids to play because if they're over there in Donahue playing, the police send them back to their houses. We don't have a park for these kids. We don't have nothing. So how are we supposed to live? Like animals? The lady, like Guy was saying, she put the flowers in the garden. Come on. The landlord went and said, oh, that's so pretty, that's so nice. 5 minutes later, the next day, you got to take out the flowers. But check this out. She had to take all her flowers off from her garden, but the people up of her through the hill, they have all this with flowers and everything. We cannot decorate for Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween. Be careful because you're going to mess up the sheetrock, the siding. And if you do, we're going to hold you accountable. So it's for some people's yes and for other people's no. Or we're all black or we all white, whatever they want to call it. But you're supposed to be fair to everybody. You're not supposed to, for me, that's not right. You know? So I hope you guys try to get the rent control, the housing advocate, I don't know, whatever it takes. But when the voters come and we have to vote, because you guys are there because we voted, not because you are there. We all voted for y'all. So we expect you to be decent and do something about it. Because, unless the landlord want to kick us all out, where are we going to go? That's another thing. There's no place to go. The housing list is crowded. Have anybody go through the housing list to see if they still want to be on the housing list or they bought their house or they left to renew that? No. There's a building over there, 115, 119, that used to be an our place shelter, which I was. That building is empty. What are you guys planning to do with the state money? That building is empty. That's a good place to do some housing. You know how many places here? Look at the Kmart Plaza. The other day I saw Miss Linda Deacon with the mayor and somebody else over there trying to, I don't know what they're going to do over there.
Let's try to be respectful of fellow counselors. Please.
Sorry.
No, don't worry about it. She's a fellow colleague and I can't,
Well,
you know
I'm
what I mean?
sorry,
Just
but
like,
that's the
I
way
respect,
I
I
feel
wouldn't allow
about-
her to do that to you either. Like,
It doesn't bother me because I'm really, or black or white, I don't candy
No, I
coat
get
stuff.
that. Totally get that.
Can't cover the sun with my hand because I can't do that.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to be our counselor. She never goes up there. So how is she supposed to know? No, I keep in touch with the landlords.
Okay.
Please, you know?
Yeah.
She's the one supposed to keep up with all this
Yeah.
nonsense.
So
Ridiculous.
let's just try to keep it from the eye, please. Just because
I can't do that because I'm being hypocrite, and I'm not a hypocrite.
It's not about being a hypocrite. It's about being able to project the information that you want to project without technically taking a direct shot at the person.
It doesn't matter because
Okay.
she's the one supposed to be with us.
I respect that. That's your perspective. I respect that.
You know? So I don't know what you guys are gonna do because when election comes, who knows what could happen? Somebody else could be in your seat.
I agree with that 110%. That is the right of the people.
Because we were the voters, we put you there. So, yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I don't know. Do your magic, cook something. You guys have people to talk to regarding of this matter. I don't know if you have to go to Boston. I don't know. I don't know where you guys gotta go to fix this mess because we're lending you. We have to pay rent. We have to pay light. We gotta do food. We gotta buy food. Hello? We still have to provide for other people. And sitting, looking at each other, it's not gonna work. So just have it in mind because we put everybody on those seats, we could take everybody down.
Thank you.
At night.
I appreciate that, Felicita.
I'll be very brief, and I won't attack anybody either. My name is Richard Purcell. I live at 279 Suffolk Street. I'm a former homeowner, and I am now a renter. We need a tenant's bill of rights, caso cerrado, and we need affordable housing and to recognize housing as a human right, just like healthcare. Healthcare needs to be a human right also. I came to Holyoke in 1974. I lived in the Tefford Apartments, 48 North Summer Street. The poorest, flattest, slum, ghetto, whatever you want to call it, in this city.
15.
So I know where these people are coming from with these stories. I could tell you stories that'll keep you here till midnight, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say simply, you don't know how they feel till you walked a mile in their moccasins. Thank you. It's as simple as that. When you feel how they feel and you've heard their stories, then your heart has to say, let's do something about this. It's as simple as that. Just let your heart guide you. You've heard some sad stories here. And there is a problem. The place that I live now, I pay rent. The landlord there, I've been there for 6 years, 7 years almost. The landlord that I have now was a very good landlord. He was there all the time. He was always fixing everything. If you had a problem, you could call him. He lived in Holyoke, and he was there. He sold to millionaires. And these millionaires own a lot of property. They sell Northampton properties for $1 million every other week. And guess what? He sold them the apartment saying, I want you guys, I'm selling you this for the price I'm selling it to you so that you can keep the rent low. Their first act as landlords was to raise our rent. Since then, we've had our rent raised 4 times in the last 3 years. They've only had it 3 years. 4 times. It's a tragedy. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter what your race is, because there's poor people in this entire city. No matter what color they are, there's poor people throughout this world that are that way. And you as elected officials, if you have the political will to do it, do it. Caso cerrado.
Hi, Nathan Chung, 9 Prue Avenue, apartment 4A, Holyoke. The public data from census is pretty well known. I just looked it up. In Holyoke in 2021, renters, which 40% of renters or 41% of renters spend more than 35% of their income on rent, compared to about 19 to 18% of homeowners with or without mortgage spending money on housing-related costs. And that difference is pretty dramatic in where I live. I own and live in a very small 1-bedroom condo complex, a lot of which is owned by investor owners. And to their credit, they do take good care of their units, but the economic disparity I observe between myself as an owner with my renters, a lot of them are my friends, is pretty dramatic. So owning this unit without a mortgage is about $400 a month. If you have a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, 5%, 20% down, it's gonna be about $750 a month. And if you rent the same unit, it's about $1,050 a month. So what that means is, and a lot of the renters tend to have trouble, tend to have like lower paying jobs, so they already have a trouble saving, but now they're spending anywhere from $650 to $300 more compared to owning it, just to live in the same complex. So what does that mean for the long-term, financial prosperity of everyone in Holyoke? You got a certain population of people who's living in the same types of housing but spending much more money. So maybe there needs to be some discussion, maybe it could never be reality, but what is a reasonable profit margin for investor owners? And also, what can the city and what can the community do to make sure people have more access to affordable and quality housing? So it's just, very hard questions, but I'd like to just, ask people in the community to think about these. And one thing I want to end is, a lot of people celebrate Holyoke having a very high rate of profit margin for investment properties, but we have to remember on the other side of that is another human being who's spending more of their income, usually hard-earned income from stressful jobs, spending more of their money to just keep a roof over their head, and they still have to worry about renewing their lease every year. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Luke Rotello. I live at 39 Hinckley Street in Northampton. As I'm not a resident of Holyoke, I'll try to keep this brief, but I would like to tell a little bit of my story. So earlier this year, I was illegally evicted by a homophobic landlord during the monkeypox crisis. I was described as a monkeypox vector. I was told to take my drag show elsewhere. My landlord repeatedly and illegally without notice entered my space. And I had no real avenue for advocacy. I contacted Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey's office. They got back to me 3 months later to tell me that I was on my own. So, and I'm here to speak for myself, and I have the power to do that. But there are so many other people who cannot. So, I'm trying to just voice that a little bit. But I'm not just here for me. I'm here for everyone in this room, for the people who have suffered so much more than I have. I hear their stories and my blood boils. My blood boils because this is not an accident. It is intentional, and it is intentional because it is profitable. That is disgusting. And it ain't right. It ain't right. It's incredibly upsetting. And, I'll basically leave it at that, but, parting words for the people in this room who are responsible, for the people in this room who turn misery into profit, you've got a fight on your hands. That's it. I'm done.
Good evening, Michael Moriarty. I'm the Executive Director of One Holyoke Community Development Corporation. I live at 1 Lexington Avenue, and I've lived in Holyoke most all my life. So I came here more to listen than to speak, but there was one message I did want to bring that I want to bring whenever there's a housing topic before us. Just in preface to that, a couple of observations from my own experience as a CDC, we are a landlord. We have about 275 units here in the city. We think of it as a social enterprise, and we try to think very seriously about managing our properties from a place of advocating for the residents of our city. We pay careful attention to cost burden. That's a concept I haven't heard mentioned tonight, but I've certainly heard tonight many, many times. You can't thrive if you're spending more than a third of your income on your housing. You simply can't. And if your income is very limited, then even a third is a barrier to thriving. And yet, the vast majority of people who live in Hampden County are cost burdened, and overwhelmingly, that's true for people who live in the city of Holyoke. One of the things that we were able to do last year, because we can do something that the for-profit managers can't, we can get donations. And so we sought them intentionally because we know about 52% of our tenants are people who have no subsidy. They're not in a project-based building because that's not all the properties we own are. And we did freeze their rent this year because we knew the other costs of living were going up exponentially. We were seeing it ourselves. We're seeing it with our own operating costs. But we have that way of solving a problem for people temporarily. Can't do it forever. But in 2022, We did succeed in doing that, and many generous local organizations help make that possible so that we can still be around for 2023. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it again next year. I seriously doubt it, but we'll try our best. But I think at the end of the day, you know, I'm almost 10 years leading this organization, and in all of that time, we have never had more than 3 to 5% of our portfolio available for rent. That's a very tiny number. There's always very, very little availability. Most of the time when people come to us looking for help, we are not able to assist them. When Hurricane Maria happened, we were not able to take a leading position at all. We simply didn't have the inventory. When there's a fire in Holyoke, we can collaborate with other agencies to try to get the word out, but we don't have the space to house people ourselves. Production. That is the answer. I've got a link, and I will email it to all of the council this evening or tomorrow, because the most important solution to the housing crunch in Holyoke is more housing production. If you're unfamiliar with the 2021 Regional Housing Report published by the Donahue Institute, which goes into this in granular detail and can identify, based on all the demographics and numbers and projected changes in how many people live in our valley, not just our community, but very much our community, I encourage you to read that report. So again, it's the 2021 Regional Housing Report published by the Donahue Institute. It was a collaboration of many housing providers and organized by Wayfinders, and again, published by the Donahue Institute. I think it is very insightful, and as you struggle to figure out where you can put the limited resources of this city where you do have housing dollars, I can't stress enough, production of all kinds is a central part of the answer to all this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alexis Diaz. I'm a Dow AmeriCorps member serving at Lighthouse Holyoke, which is a school down the street on Ray Street. And I also am the new manager of the farmers markets in Holyoke. And yeah, shout out to you. Thank you, Ray. So I just want to say I was that kid that had to boil.
Address real quick.
Oh, 589 South Bridge. That's
There you
where I
go.
used to live. I'm now no longer a resident of Holyoke. I live in Chicopee, but my heart
So
always
give me
resides
that
in it.
address right there, the Chicopee one.
The Chicopee,
Yeah.
54 Artisan Street.
Yeah.
That's where I live now with my parents. And I was one of those kids that had to boil water sometimes when I woke up in the morning, and my mom told me there's no heat, so I had to boil some water to take a shower to go to school. My mom did deal with unfairness when she had an accident at the Holyoke Hospital. There was black ice, and she broke her ankle, and we lived on the second floor, and for 2 years we had to carry her up the stairs, and it wasn't easy for my father, and it wasn't easy for me and my brothers, my older brothers. But I do believe there is hope in Holyoke, and this right here is the hope. This is the hope right here, and I do believe that we are going to make a change. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, council. I'm not going to give you my name or where I live because right now I live in Hampton County.
So the issue is it's a public hearing, and for the public to know. I mean, I don't know. Can we
My
suspend the
reasoning
rules?
for that, if you'll hear me out, is I'm currently trying to look for a new place to live, and I am scared of any of the prospective landlords who might be here telling their property managers or other landlords about my possible eviction proceedings, and
So
I'm just trying to find a place to live right now, and I feel like giving personal info jeopardizes that pursuit.
So I'm under the impression that you kind of have to, just because it's part of ordinance. I'm not sure if that is correct.
Say make a motion just to allow them the right to speak.
Make a motion to allow him the right to speak.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. You may speak.
So last week, my landlord got blackout drunk and attacked me with a baseball bat. I rent from a not an owner operator, but I live with my landlord, and things have spiraled out of control to a point where they got blackout drunk and attacked me with a baseball bat simply because I live there. I've been trying to get out of this situation for quite a few months now. I'm in middle of eviction proceedings, and I am, even today, filing out applications for apartments. I'm trying to stay in Holyoke because Northampton, it has rent prices equal to Boston. Springfield is too far away for commuting to my job because I work in Holyoke, and I'm telling you this as a real-time example of how desperate the situation is for people finding housing. I have not been able to find housing this entire time. I looked at an application the other day for a 2-bedroom apartment over in the Brown Street neighborhood. They were charging $3,000. $3,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. That's not even in the highlands of Holyoke. People are out of their damn minds here. So, I'm just giving you perspective on what people are going through out here. I had to call. I didn't even call the cops on my landlord. My roommate called the cops when she attacked me with a baseball bat. The police arrested her and did not press any charges. I listened to a cop tell this person straight to their face, "Ma'am, you just committed a felony, but we're not going to charge you with anything. You're a property owner." So they held her for 4 hours, let her sober up, and then they released her. I would never put my hands on anybody because I'm not here to hurt people. I'm just trying to make a way for myself in life right now. So on top of giving you my personal anecdotes, I just want to ask, what is the end result here? What are we working towards? And I think everyone can agree is just to be in charge and have agency of your own life. Just be able to live without having to worry about rent, without having to worry about mortgage, to own your own house. Something every single person in this room can relate to. And to make it so every single person can own their own house, there are some massive systemic overhauls that need to be done that no one here is expecting you to fix on your own. I don't expect you to eviscerate landlordism from this country. I don't expect you to do any of those things, anything that big. But you know what? As individuals, you sitting in these seats, you have far more power individually than any of us do. Maybe when the people come together and make motions happen, we can do some pretty powerful things, but as individuals, your choices and your opinions hold a bit more weight than other people right now. And so people are presenting you with ideas. They don't have to. That's your job. But people are coming forward anyways. And so, there is something you guys can do, and your choices matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie Talbot, 87 Highland Ave, Westfield, also not a decision, it's out of necessity. I wanted to just say a couple things. I don't know if anyone has knocked more doors in the city other than maybe Nev and Guy than I have. I've spent the last 4 years knocking doors everywhere but Ward 7. And mind-blowing to me, the conditions in every single ward of this city. Whether it's water damage. There's apartments on Lyman Terrace that have skylights on the 4th floor, and their landlords don't care. And not that the health department isn't great, Sean's amazing, but they are overworked, they are underpaid, and the system is set up to say, here's 30 days, fix it. Here's 30 days, fix it. Here's 30 days, fix it. And our city lawyers will not take landlords to court to implement fines, right? So landlords, property owners, slumlords are being able to get away with this for months and months and years with no repercussions, with no accountability. That is why we want an Office of Tenant Protections. That is why we want an agency that is strictly dedicated to making sure that 64% of the city live in healthy, safe homes. I also think the housing crisis is much bigger than just a tenant bill of rights and an Office of Tenant Protection. That's kind of like a tourniquet, right? That's a tourniquet at the moment. But when we think about the solutions around housing, we got to start getting real creative, right? We got to think through what it is to have CDCs. We got to think through what it is to get Nueva back up and running as a housing CDC. We need to think about community land trusts. We need to think about cooperative home ownership in this city, right? There's organizations and companies right around here, Willowprek, that's already owning property here in Holyoke, right? But part of that is making sure we have restrictions and regulations against investment firms from buying up property in a city that at the moment is still fairly cheap to buy up property. Because if we don't do that, our creativity is going to be super limited as to how we have the ability to address this housing crisis. So again, I have seen so many apartments, y'all, like so many apartments in this city, all over the city, where people don't know who their landlord is, don't know who to call, or do know who to call, and don't, because we live in a no-cause eviction state, and the fear of retaliation is real, So we settle. We settle for conditions that make us sick, that make us broke, because the alternative is homelessness and a housing court record that makes it harder to find housing later. So again, Office of Tenant Protection, Tenant Bill of Rights as a tourniquet to address these poor quality living conditions in the city of Holyoke. And then let's start putting some restrictions and regulations on investment firms from buying property so that we can get creative. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Greg Virgilio. I live at 185 Pine Street, apartment 1 left, and I am a landlord in Holyoke. I've been in Holyoke for about 40 years as a landlord. One of the things that I noticed is that we've got 3 landlords in this room, including myself, and I'd like to know where the rest of them are, okay? What Katie said, Katie, is that right? Yeah, I'd like to echo some of that because number one, I do think that Sean Gonzalez does a good job at the Board of Health. And a lot of these tenants, maybe they don't realize it, but they have that right to call the Board of Health and have an inspection done in their apartment. Okay, I've heard a lot of tenants complain about the conditions in their apartment, and they have the rights to take corrective action. The other thing that Katie mentioned, and I agree with this, is that I don't think the city is tough enough on the bad landlords. I know as a landlord in Springfield, if I didn't correct code violations in 30 days, I was in court, and Holyoke doesn't do that. I think they could improve that if they had the money to hire the attorneys that it takes to take these recalcitrant landlords to court. And I think it's an important part of correcting code violations. So as a landlord myself, I'm not opposed to that because I like to think that we do a good job. So the other issue that Mike Moriarty mentioned is production. You know, I believe in the free market. I believe that these high rents that we're seeing are going to stimulate production of more housing. And this is a temporary crisis. It's brought about, as Steve mentioned, by this temporary, I believe this draft is a double-edged sword because it's creating a very tight housing market. And that it makes it very difficult for people who don't have apartments to find apartments. Yeah, that's a temporary situation. I think raft will be ending eventually. And until it does, housing is going to be very tight, hard to find. The other part of it is production. You need to be able to create more housing. And as Steve mentioned, the housing code requirements, the books are this thick. To build or rehab a building that I'm in the process of doing, you need a sprinkler system, a fire prevention sprinkler system. Sure, that saves lives, but it adds a lot more to the cost of, creating more housing. We're building more and more stuff better and better until we're building stuff better and better until we're building, wait a second. The way I want to say it is we're building less and less better and better until we're building nothing at all perfectly, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's part of the problem, I think. If you get what I'm saying, it's the codes are very difficult. The cost of production is extremely high, and it makes it very difficult to create new housing that's affordable for the general market. And I mean, we have low-income housing, but that takes care of only a portion of the problem. We need more market housing, and that is a matter of having the rents high enough to support that. And we are seeing that now, because there are a number of buildings, if you look at Holyoke, a number of free market buildings that are being rehabbed by private for-profit individuals. And that's a good thing, because it's bringing market housing into downtown Holyoke. And that can stimulate the economy, which is a good thing for all of Holyoke. Those are my comments. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hello all. My name is Denwell Rivera. I have lived in Holyoke practically my whole life, and within the time frame of 2000 to 2013, I lived on 378 Appleton Street and 226 Lyman Street. As a young child, my mother was a single mother of three who worked her ass off to make sure me and my family were good.
Real quick, current address?
226 Lyman Street.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Yes. 2013 and on 226 Lyman Street. Worked our ass off to make sure me and my family were good and had a roof over our head. My brother was also a hard worker who made sure me and my sister had an easy living. He was my father figure and kept me in a straight line when my mother was working day and night, struggling to keep our house, our apartment, and pay rent. Even as clean as we were, even as neat as we were, our apartment complex on Appleton was infested with roaches. I have vivid memories of eating kid cuisine, my little lunch meal, and having roaches crawl over it as I was eating the kid cuisine and left it on the floor temporarily just to grab something really quickly. I have memories of sleeping in bed or just playing my video games in bed and all of a sudden feeling something crawl on my leg, and next thing you know, it's a fucking rat. I mean, just roach on my leg.
The first swear is cool. I let it ride. The F1, I kind of can't do that. All right. I appreciate you speaking, though. I get in trouble for it, so I can't allow. If I get in trouble for it, I can't allow. You know what I mean?
It's just crazy because it's like speech, though. Like,
no, it doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't have to be perfect. But I get in trouble for it.
You know, it got to the point to where I was so numb to it that I would treat these pests as like common house flies, and seeing one on the wall, I'm just like, okay, let me just kill it, leave it, and try to take care of it and clean it off. That was one of the many issues that I had faced on Appleton that are still engraved to me in my mind to this day. To this day, if I see a roach on the floor or something like that, I will freak out. But thank God I have not seen anything like that yet where I live at currently. However, as the years went by and we moved out of 378 to 226 Lyman Street, I grew older and became far more aware of the issues surrounding our tenants' conditions. As we moved into a new apartment, we faced more challenges, some of which I was familiar with, some I wasn't. Having to throw out trash loaded with mice both young and old into the trash, having to use shirts from my dirty laundry basket to block out the exit and use a dustpan to kill the mice that ended up sneaking into my bedroom was just another set of obstacles that me and my family had to face. Maintenance was just as worse, taking days and sometimes weeks to respond to our maintenance requests. Maintenance would usually be some random handyman that they were able to hire for cheap, usually making the issue worse or give a half donkey, I can't say the A word, repair whatever issue, to repair whatever issue we had. It's 2022. I am 22 years old, and tenants all over Holyoke are dealing with the same issues I had to deal with when I was a child. I remember when me and some members of Tenants Union of Western Mass and Neighbor to Neighbor went door knocking around Springdale. One door had opened up and a woman and a child had answered. As she was describing the conditions of the apartment, I couldn't help but to think that this poor child is going through the same stuff that I went through. It's an endless cycle. Year after year, decade after decade, we're still dealing with the same issues to this day. Seeing all of this, I asked myself what can be done. What solutions do we need to enact upon? The Tenants' Bill of Rights is the answer. The Office of Tenants Protections is the answer. We need this now, not tomorrow, not in a year, not in a decade. We need to be the ones who end the cycle now. Enough is enough. The tenants of Holyoke had had enough. We are more than just monthly checks and unfinished maintenance requests. We are human beings. We are tenants who deserve rights. And I just want to say this too. God and the people of Holyoke will look upon you and your fellow city council members and see if you will pick people or profit. I demand that you make the morally correct choice. And one other thing too. Remember the people who left this council meeting. Remember the people who were sitting on this board and left. And make that a factor when you make your vote come election time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. So, there's nobody. Oh, John, you going? All right.
That's it.
Mr. Chairman, I have my hand up.
I understand that, but I will
Thank
entertain
you.
the fellow councilors once we close the public hearing. Right now, it's for the public.
Good evening, City Council. Good evening, City of Holyoke. My name is JR, and I live on 125 Cabot Street. My true address is, in the words of Mother Jones, is wherever oppression lies. Tonight, we've heard so many stories. You know, we all represent here, for the most part, whether it's neighbor to neighbor, the Tenants Union of Western Massachusetts. And we're here to protect our tenants at all costs. We're here to make things and demand things. We demand that you adopt the Bill of Rights. We demand that you adopt tenants of office and protections and regulations on big corporations from coming into Holyoke and completely gouging us for prices. This is injustice. This is oppression of the highest order. This is discrimination. This is as well as displacement. Some might even say gentrification. I call it genocide of the Boricua and Black indigenous populations that are inside Holyoke. We've heard so many stories here today that I won't repeat. We've knocked on many doors. There are so many people here today that could show up. There are many more people that could not show up. There are stories that would just give you PTSD. It's insane, the apartments that I've walked into, and I don't say that lightly. Some of these apartments, every night I think about the apartments that I've entered, and it's insane. The other day I walked into an apartment where a lady's husband had died in the living room a year past, and the carpet was still soaked with, as you could tell, what happens to a body, excrement inside the carpet. This carpet is still there. Blood, excrement of a dead man is still in that carpet. This property is currently managed by Mount Holyoke Management. They requested, I probably can't say that. My apologies.
Yeah,
I
please refrain from
retract
that
comment then. I retract that comment officially, I guess.
I mean, you already said it, but I'm just saying in the
I know.
future.
Robert's rules, I'm studying it. This property has charged the tenant $400 who is on a fixed income, who can't, put any single penny towards repairing this carpet full of blood soap and excrement from her husband's body. This is just one of the many stories. It's alarming. You knock on these doors and you really just don't know what to do. We can rely on the Board of Health and we could rely on the building department. Number, I think 5 or 6 on the Bill of Rights is joint inspections alongside the building department and the Board of Health every 2 years after the lease. Every 2 years after that, post it. Joint done with the tenants union so that we can represent and we can protect our tenants and share resources in any event. The things that we ask go beyond rent control. It's, if you've read through the Bill of Rights, it's not just rent control, although that's the biggest thing that we fight for. We fight for to be on that lease when a tenant is signing, to have no discrimination of protected classes, which there are many. Number one is probably the most important that I will say, the class of being poor, right? The biggest discrimination that you have when you sign a lease is really how much money do you make? Do you make
2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 times the amount of income. That's discrimination against the poor. Many people are facing discrimination, not only of that, but as well as number 2 on the Bill of Rights, banning the box, where landlords can essentially decline an applicant's application if they apply, if they are found to have committed a misdemeanor or a felony. I believe we had a couple stories of folks coming forward that I was discriminated upon just because I sold weed like a dozen years ago, and it's just unfair. Everybody deserves fair housing. Everybody deserves to be in the union. For those that I could not, that could not come out here, I hope that many of those folks that came here today spoke on your behalf. I really want to give a big shout out to you all here today in front of me, you city councilors, that it's 9 o'clock and you guys are sitting through all this. This is big and it means a lot to me. To you, it's early. To us, it's a little late. We're very hungry.
Tomorrow's gonna be intense.
Right. So just to finish up, I also want to give a big shout out to the translator here, Gloria Caballero.
Yeah, thank you for that.
For translating for our 2 comrades. For our 2 comrades that could not speak English, who was able to participate in this, who weren't able to speak, but I hope that we represented them well, part of the union. Alongside a big thank you to all those who have supported us, neighbor to neighbor, for, putting this together, knocking on 20,000 doors. The tenants union for putting up a lot of work on the basis of this Bill of Rights, this program for housing justice, essentially, as well as many, many others in solidarity with us. We heard from folks outside of Holyoke that this impacts, especially those who are represent the Workers Party. So big shout out to everybody who was able to participate in this conversation. And again, with or without you, preferably with you, we will still get this Bill of Rights adopted, not only in Holyoke, but throughout the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and hopefully the entire nation of the United States of America. Thank you so much and have a good night.
Thank you. So I would like to take and entertain a motion to close up the public hearing.
Is there anyone online, just to make sure?
Just Linda.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is to close the public hearing.
Second. Oh, wait, go ahead.
Again, Cleopatra from Topaniki, 435 Topaniki. We have solutions. We are the community. If you guys will take a chance on us, like we took a chance on you guys voting, we can come together. We're here. We're telling you, we have a solution. Just help us. I'd like to thank you guys for your time and everybody that came here.
Thank you.
I'm going home to eat.
So entertain a motion to
close public hearing.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public
There you go.
hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public meetings closed. I would like to recognize Councilor Linda Vacan and Will Puello as present. Any other councilors that have any comments, feel free to let me know so they could speak. But technically, this was a public hearing so that we can hear from the residents. They organized and signed a petition, got enough signatures for them to be able to host or ask for us to host this meeting, for them to be able to be heard. So the main goal out of this meeting was to listen for us, or at least for me here as a counselor and as chair of public safety. But I'll recognize Linda Vacan first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was tending to strictly listen to the public hearing tonight. I will note that historically, counselors have been allowed to speak at public hearings. And the reason that I called in was because during the public hearing, I heard my name used, and apparently the campaign season is starting early this year. And so I wanted to make sure that those residents who had concerns in Ward 5 had my phone number.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that
go
they
ahead.
could text me, but now they've all left. So,
No, they're here. They're here. They're all here.
All right. Well, I wanted to be sure because I have everything published, but I'm always wanting to hear from any of the folks I represent. So if they're ready, I would like them to be able to note down that my cell phone number is 413-210-6077. Texting is best because I have to have your phone number for my phone to actually ring on the ringer. But I'm very good at getting back on text, and I've reached out to folks up at Tokeniki and Farnham before, and I would be happy to do that again. And I also want the folks in the public hearing to know that I and a number of other counselors have been actively seeking and working to get positions supported that will actually be doing enforcement on a number of the issues that I heard in the public hearing tonight. So I would just like folks to be aware of
Thank you for
those
that.
things and have my number. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bacon. Councilor Puello.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the listening part, but I did have some things that I wanted to say. I mean, I couldn't let the meeting end without saying some of these things, because I think it's important that we share with people so that everybody fully understands what happens, that some of the things that people are upset about, and by the way, I agree 100% with some of the things that people talk about, they're out of the control of the council. And I mean, and it's because this is very important moving forward. You know, where's the state rep? Where's the state rep in all of this? You know, we just had, I think this last summer, I think the state had something like a $4 billion surplus. It was something to the tune of $4 billion. And when people talk about where's the state aid, where's our money? Well, there it is. You know, $4 billion. And how much money of that did Holyoke get? Zero, absolutely nothing. And it's important that people know that, because people talk about elections. The state rep she ran unopposed this year. The election was this year, and she ran unopposed. Nobody ran against her. And I think it's very important that people understand that, because sometimes people don't, you know, they don't say exactly who's responsible for some of these things and who's responsible for making changes. And, you know, I heard somebody mention needles, and I filed an order regarding needles. And again, the state rep, this is state legislation. Where's the state rep? Where's our state rep? $4 billion, Holyoke gets zero. Where is she? Where's our state senator? Where's John Vilas? Nothing. Nobody has anything to say about it.
Hey, Will, we dropping names? I've told the public that we refrain from dropping names, even if they're not our colleagues, just to keep it civil.
You're right, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I'll stick to their titles. Where's the state senator? You know, where's the state rep? You know, where are they? And, you know, one more thing I have to mention, because this is also important as far as where's the money, and, you know, because a lot of this is, it's where's the money? Where's the state share for Holyoke? Where is it? It's not here. And, you know, I can't let it go either. I have to mention this because I was the only person that voted against both of these proposals, okay? Because I heard a developer say that one of the solutions is more housing, and I agree with that. I actually think that's true. I think we do need more housing. But who's doing the building? Okay, when you come in and you get almost $500,000 in ARPA money, and then you get 2 free properties for free practically, and then you build on them, and then you flip them for profit. I mean, come on, and nobody has anything to say about this. Everybody's okay with it. When you have somebody that comes in and gets a property on High Street for pennies, and then they come into the council and say that they have $300,000 ready to go, ready to invest into the property, and then a couple months later, they end up getting a $260,000 grant from the state. Why is nobody upset about that? I mean, and then I think I saw one of the news articles. I think they ended up doing a fundraiser. They got 20 grand, another 20 grand match grant, and then 20 grand in donations. So there's the 300 grand that they needed. That's people's money to take care of their housing and all of their problems. So I think it's really important that people know that. And, you know, I support the Bill of Rights and everything, but enforcement is really important. The city needs money to do these things, and the state is nowhere to be found. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to recognize Councilor Givener. And then, but before I do so, I just want to address something right quick. You guys did an awesome job getting all the signatures that you needed to be able to get push us to host this meeting, right? Us hosting this meeting technically is the first step, right? in moving in that direction that you guys would like to see things moving, the pendulum moving. Councilor Puello is not incorrect in saying that a lot our hands are tied with a lot of this stuff, because a lot of this stuff is state legislature and state law. But us together, right, as a council and the residents in the community, if we can speak up in meetings like this, they're already being recorded on YouTube, then the state senator and state reps can see these videos and be pushed with these videos alone. So to say that, just to say us that are here now, we're working with you. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say, because I've heard some of the not narrative, but like people feeling like we're not doing enough and we're not trying to support, and that to me is not necessarily true. I'm here, it's 9:15, I have 2 babies at home. My wife has been texting me like, where are you, what's going on? This is to hear you guys out, right? This is my way of supporting and helping, and any other way that I could support and help, and any other counselors that could do the same, I'm sure they would do it to the best of their abilities. I can't speak for everyone, but to the best of their abilities. So again, this is the first step. Hopefully we follow up and we continue moving forward. But I just wanted to address that quickly, just so that people don't feel like when they leave here that they spoke up and nothing happened. It's not that nothing happened, it's that this is the first step moving in a direction of, but it takes both of us. You got to keep pushing so that we could keep pushing. Councilor Givner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also wanted to say thank you for everyone for coming out and telling us everything you're going through. I think it's vitally important to share that information. I think you should also understand that the people before you, many of us have gone through very similar things, if not the exact same things. So I would like you to know that not everyone is from a place of privilege, before you. And I think that's really something that people forget. The little bit of power that we do have was granted by you all, and we appreciate it. And I think, for myself, I did think it was important to listen. I thought this was a hearing about listening to the public. I don't think it's fair to tell you all the things that are not being done currently because someone else isn't doing them. I do believe that we have a lot of control together and a lot of power together. It absolutely starts with you. I know that there are some great relationships with neighbor to neighbor, and there's a lot of, amazing things in the works that we can support. I've been taking notes, not of your names, but of your addresses, because I am specifically interested in these amazing landlords you have, and I'm sure they'd love to hear from a few of us. And I would like to say, on my part, that's something I can do is reach out and start to pick away at things and reach out to other public officials and, help gain support for this really important movement. So, we have filed orders. We have asked for things. None of that's wrong. That's been said. But I don't think you came here to hear us pat ourselves on the back about what we're trying to do for you, because you're living through this now. And it doesn't matter if I filed an order in January and February and March and April and last week that didn't, get you what you need. So we are working on it, but more importantly, you've been heard, and you should continue to be heard. We have public speaking at most of our meetings. Keep coming in, say what you want to say. Except for swears. It's important that you know that we are here for you, to work for you. So thank you so much.
Councilor Maldonado Velez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to sort of repeat what Councilor Givner was saying. Thank you. But I also want to say there's 13 of us on the council, and I believe there's only 2 of us that are actually currently tenants. So I want to reiterate how important it is to have your voice heard in this space, because the reality is some of us have had tenants, have been tenants. Some of us have had, at least similar situations, some of the stories we've heard here tonight in our past. But in the current situation, that's what's most important, hearing what is currently happening out in the community. And I've talked to many of you. I'm connected with neighbor to neighbor. I know, but at the end of the day, coming into this space and having the courage to voice and share your stories, that goes above and beyond of the power that we need in order to make the actual changes. So I really hope, and I know this will not be the last time that I connect with y'all or that y'all come into the chambers, but I really hope that this keeps going. I'm supportive of the Tenant Bill of Rights. I'm supportive of Office of Tenants Protection. So I just hope, yeah, exactly. We'll keep going, because I'm in a current situation where I need to find housing, and I just need to say the rent is too damn high. So I agree.
And just a quick note, all of our emails and phone numbers are at holyoke.org under the city council link. So if you want to find any of us, we're really easy to find. I can send you links to all that.
Mass.gov. Mass.gov. But that is a good idea, to be honest. But I'm sorry. Public hearing is closed. I don't mean to be I don't mean to be rude, but those are the rules. I don't make them. I have to enforce them.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Good night.